Starting about 2 years ago, once a month I will go 4 days without eating anything. I'll continue to drink water, but I won't eat anything. So the first question that someone might wonder is why? The second question that people wonder is how? How does somebody get that kind of willpower? Well, there's a secret. It's not really about willpower. It's about knowing how not to get hungry. Third question is, what are the benefits of doing it? And I'll discuss all three of these things. First, why? Why would somebody do this? Well, the concept behind evolution or survival of the fittest is that when times of hardship come along, people who are best suited to it survive, while those who don't die off. After a while, the only people who are left are those who are ideally suited for whatever the stress situation is. The fact that you're alive today means that you and your ancestors are and were ideally suited to survive famines. There's one other thing though, and that's that a person who was likely to eat more was more likely to survive the famine. And so you end up with this weird combination of traits. On one hand, you're ideally suited for surviving a famine. In fact, you benefit from surviving a famine. At the same time, you hate being hungry. There's a similar phenomenon that happens with cold, and we'll talk about that in another video. So after reading that there were benefits from it and that humans had evolved to do well in famines, I decided to give it a shot and see how it went. And the first time I did it was a little bit rough. I went for 4 days. That's my typical time. A month ago I did 6 days. Believe it or not, it really doesn't get any harder. The first time was unusual because I was going into uncharted territory. I got a little lightheaded by day 3 and 4. I'd be walking along and feel the need to go down and T-bow until my head rush ended, and then I'd stand back up. Now it's not a big deal. Nothing really happens when I do an extended fast. So the question then becomes, so how do you do it? How do you not go hungry? People who have tried dieting find themselves ravenous after just a few hours. How does somebody go for several days without eating anything? And the trick is to not get hungry. So how do you not get hungry? Well, first, what causes hunger? The feeling of hunger is caused by the interplay between insulin and carbohydrates. So if you switch to a low carbohydrate diet, hunger goes away. Hunger is no longer part of your life. You get up in the morning, you do what you want to do, and then at some point throughout the day you think, you know what, I should probably eat something, and so you do. But there's not this gnawing feeling that's always in the pit of your stomach reminding you that you have to eat again. That's a carbohydrate addiction. And you'll find out whether or not it's addiction when you try to give it up. You'll actually physically go through withdrawal for a couple of days when you try to give up carbohydrates. It's not easy to do. I should clarify that by carbohydrates, I mean giving up starches. I don't mean giving up, cucumbers and celery and produce and tomatoes and stuff. I'm talking about starchy stuff like pasta and bread and rice and legumes. So if you want to do an extended fast easily, I would switch over to a low carbohydrate diet a week or 2 ahead of time and get used to it. If you don't mind doing it the hard way, you'll be hungry for a day or two, and then after that you'll switch into fat burning mode and you'll be fine. So that really is the trick. It's to not get hungry in the first place. Let me walk through the progression of what happens during the 4 days of a prolonged fast. First I'll talk about people who are not used to doing it, and then I'll talk about what the process is like for people who are already on a low carbohydrate diet. If you're eating a regular diet, day 1 will be kind of tough. You'll get hungry. Day 2, you'll get really hungry. In fact, you might feel a little queasy going through carbohydrate withdrawal. Reportedly, it's similar to going through withdrawal after a drug addiction. At the end of day 2, after you've used up all your blood sugar and glycogen, which is short-term energy stored in your muscle cells, your body will burn a little bit of muscle tissue. And then it realizes you're serious, and it switches over and burns fat exclusively. The problem that people get into when they're dieting is that they never push it long enough. They get hungry, they cannibalize some muscle tissue, and then they start eating again. And they never get to where they're burning fat, they're just burning muscle. There's no evolutionary reason to burn your muscles in times of famine. You need those for when the famine ends. And there are people who do long fasts, by which I mean a month, 20 days to 30 days. And they report no loss of muscle tissue. Their muscle shrinks in size because it loses water and other stuff. But when they start eating again, their muscle comes back very similar to what it was like before. Then on day 3, your body begins to cannibalize tissue that it thinks it's not going to need. It goes through and it looks for diseased, dead, dying cells, or any cell that's not pulling its own weight. It also does this at the cellular level. It goes through your cells and looks for mitochondria and other small organelles that aren't pulling their weight and gets rid of them. It also, come to find out, gets rid of scar tissue. Scar tissue doesn't do you any good, so if you do a prolonged fast for 3 or 4 days, it starts cannibalizing that. Your scars will flatten out and shrink down. 1 day is not enough for all your scars to disappear. This phenomenon wasn't pointed out to me until I had been doing this once a month for a year. And sure enough, my scars had flattened out. I had lost nearly all my street cred. I had a scar on my chin from a toilet seat incident when I was 3. I used to have to shave around it. Now I don't, because that scar is flattened out and it's smooth. And so I just shave over it like regular skin. In scans of people who have had operations, they find that internal scarring also dissolves and goes away. Now the scar won't disappear entirely. It'll still be visible, but it doesn't look anything like it did before. Also, you dump a whole bunch of white blood cells. The sick ones are the ones that have already done their job and aren't needed anymore. People refer to a prolonged fast as rebooting your immune system for this reason. And afterwards, you essentially have a bunch of new white blood cells, and they're much better prepared to attack whatever you encounter. And that process of cannibalizing tissue, which is called autophagy, continues for several days or as long as you do it. So if you're already on a low carbohydrate diet, you start off already burning fat. You don't go through the muscle burning phase, you just burn fat directly. And so you get 3 or 4 days of benefit. Now I should point out that through this time period, it's important to continue drinking water. If you dehydrate, you'll feel symptoms from that. Your body very meticulously regulates your blood's sodium concentration. And when you stop eating, you continue to sweat, you continue to pee, you continue to lose salt and sodium. And so as a result, there's less sodium in your bloodstream. Your body emits less water because that would dilute it. Your large intestine is the part of your body that absorbs water into your system. And so if you're low on sodium, it'll just shoot the water right on through your large intestine, and that can cause trouble. So to avoid embarrassing problems, I will take a bouillon cube once a day, sometimes twice, along with water, and that keeps your sodium levels up, and it keeps you from dehydrating. An easy way to check is with a bathroom scale. If your body weight is dropping quickly, it's water. So have a bouillon cube, drink some water, and keep going. I should also point out that after about day 2, things start to smell amazing. Somebody walks past you and they're vaping, and you just want to drool because you can smell the cotton candy smell of the vaping, and it just about kills you. That's just part of it too. But despite everything smelling incredibly good, you still don't feel hungry. Last month, I went 6 days without eating. I wanted to push it a little bit. And days 5 and 6 were the easiest 2 days. You just get used to it. Day 5, I went and worked out at the gym. It was a regular workout. It was an intense workout. And I sat in the sauna for 30 minutes. It was just a regular workout. And so you can continue like normal. Part of that may have to do with me being fat adapted. I've been doing low carbohydrates for a few years now. I very easily burn fat when I need it. So eventually the time will come to end your fast. And there's a lot of discussion in blogs and other stuff about the ideal meal for ending your fast. The reason is your body doesn't know if this is a blip or if you're going to have a steady supply of food. So it gets everything it can from this food. You know, people will say that you should eat bone broth or that you should eat veggies or produce and other things. Personally, what I do, and I'll do a video on this later, is I make pho, you know, the Vietnamese soup, from a beef tendon and beef bones and then some veggies and other stuff that I put into it. You eat slowly, and then in my case, I'm not terribly hungry the rest of the day. I'll continue to graze and stuff, but I'm not hungry. It's not like you'd expect to be. If you've gone a few hours or a day without eating and you're ravenous, well, that just doesn't happen. And so you just won't eat very much. After you eat, your body begins to regenerate tissue. You create a bunch of stem cells, and those are used to replenish your white blood supply as well as other things. So when you fast, your organs shrink. And reportedly, the reason your organs are shrinking is because they're getting rid of old or damaged cells. After you're done fasting, you have to regenerate the lost tissue from those organs. And so you generate a lot of stem cells, as mentioned earlier. I usually feel a little different the day after fasting. It's just kind of a continuous day-long buzz. I describe my blood as feeling a little foamy. I don't know if I'm the only one who's that way or if other people feel that way. If you've done it, report in. Let me know in the comments section. So in summary, that's why to do an extended fast. That's how. And those are some of the benefits that come from it. You want to click subscribe because I'm going to be checking in and letting you know how I'm doing as this fast progresses. It's starting today. Also, leave comments. Let me know if there's some aspect of what we've talked about that you'd like to hear more about. Or just drop me a hello, and feel free to forward this video to someone you think might be interested in it. Thank you much.